Welcome to Aspects of Writing with your host, James Kelly. Now, let's get writing. Here's your host, James Kelly.
Hello and welcome to Aspects of Writing. I'm your host, James Kelly, and my guests for today's show are Phillips and Brittany Bearden. And Brittany, you're joining us from Florida, I believe?
I am.
All right. Of course, Aaron's right here in the studio.
Right here. I'm not a hologram. I promise. I'm here. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great.
Good to see you. Hey, Britt.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm great. Thank you.
Good to see everybody. It's so good to be alive on a Sunday.
So, Aaron, why don't we start off by you telling us who you are?
Who I am. My name is Aaron Phillips. I'm a member of the Las Vegas Entertainers Hall of Fame, induction 2018. I've been behind a microphone for 16 and a half years. I do a lot of shows. I don't want to broadcast studio. Aaron's Hour is my flagship show, Saturdays from 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific. And then I also do a wrestling show called Thoughts Count Anywhere. That's Saturdays from 9 to 11 a.m. Pacific. I'm a public speaker, podcast trainer, but now because of Brittany's help, and one of the reasons we are here today is I can also add author to my resume because I went through a health transition about 5 years ago, and I needed to tell my story, and now I can add author to my title.
Absolutely. And the name of your book is How to Be Liked in 5 Minutes? Or
No, I wish. That's my old. That's an old. That was an
That's
old.
an e-book.
That's an e-book. That's still on my website.
Okay,
But the
right,
one I wrote with Brittany's help, "Let My Voice Speak to You." That's my slogan.
Okay.
Tales of a Hall of Fame, Las Vegas Hall of Fame broadcaster, and so let my voice speak to you. Let me share my message to you, and hopefully, it'll help somebody. So that's the title.
So give me an idea of what you're talking about with the book, why that book was important to write for you.
Well, in 2017, I weighed 354 pounds.
Okay.
I had a lot of medical issues. I had sleep apnea, stage 2 non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, type 2 diabetes, et cetera. And the doc looked at me and he said, you need to lose a lot of weight and fast. And so together with my wife, actually, we both did the gastric sleeve surgery in August of 2017.
Okay.
And I went from 354 pre-pandemic, I got down to 215.
Okay.
So the COVID-19, though, now has given me the COVID-20 that I'm trying to work back off. But the things I learned, that my wife and I learned in our health transition, are things that I wanted to share. I felt that my message was important for not only for me, but on behalf of my wife, that people can learn things about themselves that don't necessarily have to apply to a health situation. They can be applied to anything in life. Yeah. And that's the majority of the book. It's really a book about inspiration, education, and laughter. Because the majority of it is telling our story about the health change. Little tidbits on how to do podcasting, and then I tell some crazy stories from when the microphones are not on, as you can attest to.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
And so that's really kind
of like what we went through today.
Exactly. If they only knew, right? And that's really what the book's about, just sharing the message, because I want to share my message, whether it's to one person or 10,000 people on stage someday. And that's what the book's about. And thank goodness it's been well received. And I've been getting comments back about how it's helped a lot of people from dealing with depression, which I talk about in the book, because Brittany is so good at what she does. She dragged all that out of me, which is why I loved working with her. Because if I wrote my own book on my own, James, I'd be writing a comic book. It would be in color in 3 pages.
Well, I want to introduce Brittany. So,
Please,
Brittany, why don't you tell us a little about who you are?
Sure. I'm a ghostwriter. Among other things, I also have a public relations company, and I've been ghostwriting books since 2011.
Okay. And so how did you meet Aaron as far as ghostwriting his book? Because you're in Florida. He's here in Vegas.
We met, my husband was a speaker, and we met through the speaking. Jeff and Aaron spoke at the same event.
As well as Jeff and I hosting that wrestling show for a year, too. Remember that one?
Yes, but that's not how...
That's not the original. You're right. That's not the original. But
all right. So, Brittany, how did you get into writing? Because, I've done some ghostwriting myself, but what led up to that?
Sure. I was an English major in college, and I didn't really know what to do with it when I graduated from college. So my mom said I should just Google freelance writing gigs. Like, it hadn't occurred to me to just Google it. And so I did, and I started working for a book publicist, and I was writing about 70 press releases a week. And so one day he said, do you think you could edit a book? And I said I could try.
Sorry about that.
I edited the book. And then a couple months later, he said, "Do you think you could ghostwrite a book?" And I said I could try. And so he had me ghostwrite that one in a month. I never write a book in a month anymore. I would never do that again. But
Wow. That's pretty amazing. I mean, I've ghostwritten, but it's taken me sometimes 6 months, sometimes a year.
They wanted it done in a month because they were speakers and they wanted to get the stage at a certain event.
But his book isn't really like a novel, though, in that sense. How long is that book? How many pages?
I think it's about 120 pages, right?
That's still
roughly?
pretty good size.
Yeah. No pictures, though. That's in the next edition.
Yeah. Right. So I understand from Aaron that he dictated this to you and you literally wrote it from dictation?
Yes. And I also asked him questions to draw more information out of him.
Okay.
I felt like I was in a confessional.
Yeah.
Which...
See, and what I like about Aaron is he's not afraid to say he had someone help him write this book.
No, absolutely not.
Because most people don't want anyone to know that someone ghost wrote the book for them.
Oh, heck no.
It's really hard to put like testimonials on your website or anything like that because no one wants to say that they did it.
I've only had one that did it mine. Everyone else I had to sign the contract stating that, I'd be anonymous. Unless they give me credit somewhere in the book.
And you can't really build a business based on referrals for the most part because no one says that they... Right. Yeah.
There is a challenge there.
Yes.
Definitely a challenge. Well, how was this experience for you, Aaron?
In a way, it was almost cathartic. I mean, it was like going to a psychiatrist and telling my stories only without the couch, because fortunately, Britt knew me as she talked about before we collaborated. And I had started with another ghostwriter who then moved out of town, and he and I met face to face, but it really wasn't, in a way it worked out because I wasn't comfortable with the direction and what was happening with it. And then when Britt and I got started, it was like we would make these appointments and we would be on the phone, about an hour each phone call. Mm-hmm. And she just knew where to go and what to drag out of me, knowing the health story and everything. And for me, it was almost like literally like going to a psychiatrist or psychologist just to finally talk and get stuff brought up and bring out that was part of the story that, like I said, if I were to sit down and write it, I would have never thought to include many of the points that are in the book. And it was a great experience. And I've recommended Brittany to a couple of people that were talking about doing a book or how did I write it. And I'm right up front. You know what? Hey, I had a ghostwriter. I had somebody write it with me. Not a ghostwriter when I tell them who did it with. What's that?
I said that I appreciate you.
I guess you're really not a ghostwriter when you tell them who did it with you.
Yeah, she's no longer a ghostwriter.
But that's okay. I mean, it was a great experience. And anybody who has a book in them, if they, like you said, James, if you need help, be honest and you need help and do it.
Yeah.
It ended up being and when it was done and I got the final copy, and she helps with all the connections from A to Z, not just doing the book, but getting somebody for the cover and printing and all of that.
That's really great. That's fantastic.
For me, it was just a matter of approving everything that came in.
Yeah.
And it was really one-stop shopping for me. But when I got that book in my hand for the very first time, I just sat there and I held it. It's like, holy cow, it actually happened.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that opportunity.
So Brittany, have you ever written anything for yourself, like a novel or
I'm currently writing a book about PR.
Okay.
And I'm currently writing a book about writing a book.
Okay.
Sounds like a Seinfeld episode.
Yeah. When it came to the writing of the book for you, Aaron.
Yes.
And you were talking about being cathartic. How did you view yourself before you lost the weight? Is this in the book?
Sure.
And how do you view yourself now? Do people look at you differently, you think?
Oh, my goodness.
Because I went back and looked at old pictures. So I'm just letting you know.
That's fine. When I was heavy, when I saw myself in the mirror, I knew I was out of shape, but it just didn't look as bad as it did when you see yourself in a picture. Uh-huh. Okay. And, there were things I just couldn't do with my body. And I'm not old by any stretch. I mean, next month, July, I'll be 58. I mean, I'm not over the hill by any stretch. Yeah. But when you're 350 pounds and you're shopping for 3 and 4X and you really go by that regular size aisle and you say, boy, I wish I could really wear that.
Yeah.
It does play a little bit of a mental toll. Now, I've been suffering from depression for a long time since my mom passed almost 22 years ago. And I'm not shy to share that. And now compound it with, you're not healthy. but you finally have an answer to get healthy. Now it's like I'm in my own witness protection program.
Okay.
Because nobody recognizes me anymore. You know, I've been in rooms, I've gone to networking meetings where I've seen people look at me across the room, and you know, when you get that look, I know you from somewhere, but I just can't place it until they hear my voice. My voice is a giveaway. Then people made the connection, and now people compliment about how well I look and how I feel, and it feels great. It feels great that I took control of my own situation, and I think that's why I was so encouraged by other people that I had to put my story down in a book to help other people. I've helped people. I do one-on-ones with people, whether it's weight loss or whatever. I've been very public about my story on social media because I want to help people, and now putting it to print, it's just another way for me to reach other people that maybe are not in Vegas or who maybe don't want to pick up the phone. And I have people referring books, and it's great.
And, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. We do perceive people on how they look.
Sure.
So when I looked back at the pictures today, in my mind, I tried to imagine I didn't know you. Mm-hmm. And so I'm thinking, how would I have accepted Aaron back then? Mm-hmm. And you looked jolly. You looked very happy. I would have... not that you're not now.
No,
you
please,
still are.
Absolutely.
But, you know,
I'm from Jersey, damn it. I can take it, James. Give it to me.
But, you know, we do perceive people in different ways on how they look. And it's sad that we do that, but it is true. Because you're the same person. You're the exact same person.
But how you present yourself. So I'll use the word self-esteem. You know, doing what you and I do and what Britt does on paper, you have to have a certain measure of very confident, especially what you and I do on microphones. Mm-hmm. You know, like last night I was telling you I had a gig doing wrestling commentary, and I'm meeting people from all over and whatnot. You have to feel pretty secure with yourself to put yourself out there. Yeah. I still put myself out there when I was 130 pounds heavier, but with a little more caution.
Oh, okay.
You know?
So you have more confidence now.
Now it's just like I'll talk to grass. If I feel like I want to just lay down on the lawn and talk to a blade of grass, I'm starting a conversation. You know, I'm not as uncomfortable because I'm physically more appealing to somebody to come up to and talk to than I might have been before. So my self-esteem in a lot of ways, I'm doing things with my body now that I could have never done before. And I'll give you a simple example. I do CrossFit now 3 times a week, which I started shortly after my surgery. I could never jump rope. Never.
Oh, wow.
Because I was afraid.
Yeah.
Here's this 350-pound guy trying to jump around a rope. Are you kidding me? And now I can jump rope. I'm
curious with Brittany. Brittany, how did you handle this? Because you've never been overweight. You don't look like you have ever been overweight.
Thank you. I have been overweight twice in my life.
Oh, so you had a little bit of similarities that you could relate to then.
Right.
Okay. Because I was wondering, how would you know what questions to ask and how to get into the inside the mind of Aaron Phillips? I mean, how do you...
Oh, God, please. No one wants to get in there.
Maybe you don't want to get in there, but, you know, at least...
I don't know. You just kind of, like, think through it. And a lot of it, like, I knew Aaron because we're good friends. Like, my husband and his wife, and we've all gone to dinner many times. So it was kind of like cheating that I knew a lot of.
Yeah.
In a way, though, God, Britt, I'm sorry, but I think you said it right, James. Britt, because we know each other, you really did put yourself in my shoes and knew how to ask those questions of myself.
Yeah.
Does that kind of make sense?
It does. Yeah. It does help if you knew the person. And you knew him after he lost the weight as well. So did you perceive him differently?
He lost the weight as well as after he lost the weight.
So did you perceive him differently after he's lost weight? Do you see Aaron any different than you did before?
Aaron has a new lease on life, really.
Okay.
Like, he's just super confident. I don't think he was ever timid. But like, yeah, he just really radiates positivity and feeling good about himself. And he really inspires other people. And he works really hard at it. Like they say, a lot of people after bariatric surgery gain weight back. Mm-hmm. But it's been over 5 years, and he and his wife have both kept the weight off.
So your wife
worked really hard.
Your wife was overweight as well, because she didn't look like it in the pictures.
My wife doesn't tip the scales at 5 feet. She's 4'11 3/4.
Okay.
I had all the medical issues.
All right.
For her, it was a matter of the BMI index when we both went, because thank God she's healthy. But as someone who, I mean, I don't want to give out the scale number, but the insurance company approved it because her BMI was out of whack with her body. And so we did our surgeries, 12 days apart back in 2017. And she wanted me to go first because of my other health conditions. So she wanted me to get that stuff started, getting under control first. 12 days later, she did it. And for us, it's been a blessing because we've been able to do this together, this journey. And in the book, I think I reference a lot of points. And Britt, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this. There were many points, although I talked about it like in the first person, like it was my story.
Right.
But there were a lot of situations where I talked about my wife and I, we did this. We did it together in accountability. So my wife is as much part of the book as Aaron's name is on the front cover. Mm-hmm. But my wife is very much part of that book because we did this together. 9 days apart.
You think that actually motivated you? The two of you doing this together, because I know I'm going to reference Randy Jackson, Adele,
yes.
Rebel Wilson. All these people lost a tremendous amount of weight.
Al Roker.
Mm-hmm. And, we do see them different. I'm going to be honest. We do.
Sure.
We see them differently than when they were overweight. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, and I don't even want to say overweight, really, when they were heavier.
Sure.
Because,
well, you're overweight. You're obese. I mean, it is what it is. I mean,
okay.
But you can go too far. I'll give you an example, in my opinion only. Al Roker was a big guy when he was on TV. I think he went too far losing the weight.
Okay.
And then I guess he's kind of put a few pounds back on where he looks better. Sometimes you can lose weight and look sick because you've lost too much weight.
Because you look emaciated compared to what you used to look
exactly.
like. Yeah.
But if you get to that point, like people thought when I was at 212, mm-hmm. I lost too much weight. I should have put 10 pounds back on because they thought I looked not emaciated, but it just didn't look as good.
Right.
Although I felt healthy, I saw muscles in my body that I hadn't seen since like high school.
They're there.
Yeah, they are there. But you reach a level where you have to go, you know what? Okay, I'm where I want to be. Now you start maintaining, which listen, folks, maintaining is not easy either. It's hard getting to where you want to be, but maintaining is probably twice as hard because it's too easy to fall back into the bad habits. Look, with the sleeve surgery that I had, people think they put like netting over my stomach. I want people to realize, and I know Britt can attest to this, my stomach is down to the size of a banana now. So I have to eat differently, less quantities and stuff. However, I have 12 titanium staples in my stomach, but the stomach is a muscle.
Right.
So if I overdo it, guess what? I'll find that 130 pounds again, mm-hmm. and I'm back to square one, which I swear that I would never, ever do because all the medications I was able to take myself off of, high blood pressure, diabetes, blah, 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 blah. I'm no longer diabetic. And it's in my family for generations because of it.
You switched your eating habits, I assume.
You have to.
Right.
And you and Eileen both work out all the time, too.
Correct.
Super into like Pilates and things like that. You're into the CrossFit. You don't just go like, oh, I had this surgery.
No, and you can't. You're right.
How to do.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It's a mixture of the nutrition and body movement. I've now added kickboxing into my routine just to break up the routine of CrossFit. But that's all in the book. People have to find their own way. When I talk to people, we share the benefits of our experience. I never sit down and say, you should do this, this, or this. In the book, I give a couple of suggestions. 30-30-30 rule is in there. The old one other hint that I give people, how do you the old riddle, how do you eat an elephant? Do you know the answer to that?
No, what's the answer?
One bite at a time.
Oh, yeah, one bite at a time.
Right, because people think, well, I'm going to start my diet tomorrow, but I'm going to go to sleep tonight and I'll magically be 100 pounds lighter tomorrow. Sorry, folks, doesn't work that way. And so I give some suggestions how to take that old riddle and start retraining your brain. This is really, when you get healthy and do these kind of things, whether it's exercise or putting your mind to work at doing a job, whatever, it's all here. And sometimes you have to reprogram the brain and get rid of the bad habits mm-hmm. and slowly replace them with better habits so that the brain says, oh, wait a minute. Okay, this is the new norm coming. We can deal with this. Don't give me the whole thing. Don't avalanche me. But one step at a time, it really applies. And again, fortunately, Britt knew how to pull that out of me in a way that the book makes sense from beginning to end because I tell the backstory, I tell the middle story, and at the end I wrap it in a neat bow about how you can still do this.
And that's what I wanted to ask. Brittany, you knew him during this process of him losing the weight, correct? So how would you handle this? How would you, if someone wants to become a ghostwriter and they're not sure on how to tackle this, because you had an insight to Aaron and you kind of took that journey a little bit with him, I think that gives you a little bit of an advantage now to say, here's what you should be looking for when you go to ghostwrite. Here's the questions you should be trying to ask. It actually helped, I think, in that sense that you can give a lot of advice on how you would go about ghostwriting.
Right. Like, if I didn't know him, I might do some reading online about what bariatric surgery was like and, like, questions based on what I read online.
Okay. And when it comes to asking him the pertinent questions for writing that book, obviously, if you knew Aaron, you knew what questions to ask him, or you may have even filled the gap in yourself. How would you take someone who's a novice who say they didn't know Aaron and Aaron called them and said, I need a ghostwriter. Can you help me write this book? What advice would you give them to help, write that process, do that process of writing?
I read online about what bariatric surgery was like, and sometimes it's just natural. Like sometimes I don't have all the questions written up. Sometimes he'll just say something and then I'm going to actually have 3 follow-up questions to that.
Because I'd want to know, for instance, how did you feel as a person before you lost the weight? And what was the one thing that turned the tide that made you decide you have to do this? I know health is one. We talked about that. 2013,
the final straw. Because diabetes has been in my family. That was the main medical culprit. My family going back to my great-grandmother. And 2013, I had a major bout with cellulitis. I was in the hospital for 17 days.
Okay.
For those who don't know, it's a bacterial infection that gets into your body through an open wound or cut. And my right leg from ankle to knee over the course of about 36 hours turned as red as your tie.
Okay.
I was in the hospital for 17 days with getting nuclear IV bottles every 8 hours to get the infection out. Immediately started going to an endocrinologist, and we made a deal with each other. He said, the doc said to me, you need to lose weight, and I want you down to 210 pounds. And at the time, I said, well, I played football, and I know my body, and I would look unhealthy at 210 pounds because of my structure. And I said, how about we settle on like 225, 230? He says, okay, let's get there first. I said, fine. Well, suffice it to say, 2-3 years later, I hadn't done anything. Because my diabetes, even though, at that time was kicking my butt, I work all day. By 3 o'clock, I'm ready to take a nap for the rest of the day. I'm at work at my desk and I had no energy. And then just going to doctors and getting blood work, and they saw something in my liver count, and one thing led to another. Listen, the only regret I have in doing this procedure almost 5 years ago is that I didn't do it years earlier.
Oh, okay.
Because when I see where I'm at now and how it's changed my life, because now I have twin daughters.
Okay.
Brittany knows them. One of them is in Virginia. She now, for the last 4 years, has been doing CrossFit and is watching her health. My other daughter, although she just recently changed jobs, she was working on the road with traveling musicals, so her schedule is a little wonky. She's trying to get healthier because I've pleaded with them. Don't wait until you get to my age or your mother's age, because my wife and I are only like 2 months apart, until you decide to do something to get healthy. And I've implored them every year for your physical, get your blood checked for diabetes. That's a big concern I have, because my mom at 58 lost her life due to complications of diabetes.
And you can get diabetes no matter what weight you are, by the way.
That's exactly right. And I had type 2, so I wasn't born with it. It wasn't hereditary.
Right.
It was, because type 2 is in my family, but there's ways you can not get it if you're smart. And I wasn't smart. My wife and I, over 30 plus years of marriage, we've been on just about every, we'll call them diets, because this really isn't a diet. This is a way of life when we're doing what we do now. But the weight goes up and down, which is not healthy.
That's what's really bad.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And finally, when my wife and I made this decision to do this, it was like playing Texas Hold'em. We just put all of our chips in the middle, because I really physically had to change in order to get healthy. And people come up to my wife and I and other people and, you cheated to lose weight and get out. No, it was a tool that I had, just like there's Weight Watchers and everybody else.
Right, exactly.
This was a tool that I felt I needed to be consistent with the nutrition and healthy lifestyle. And it is, I keep saying lifestyle.
It is. You have to learn to adjust.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so that's really the thing for me that makes the big difference, because I told my kids when I'm going to be around till I'm 120 to haunt the daylights out of them for as long as I possibly can, now that I'm healthy, so I'm very happy with where it is, and it's been a good thing.
The one thing I've learned about the stomach, and I know you know this, you should know this already, is that it can stretch. It can
it's
grow.
A muscle.
It can get bigger.
Right.
Because I had stomach surgery as well.
Okay.
And I learned the hard way. I lost 20 pounds within 2 weeks when I had my surgery. And then it didn't take much to put that back on, even though they said you probably will keep this off, you'll never get it. Nah, I gained it back.
And that's why I said before, the stomach, folks, is nothing more than a muscle. Okay, muscles stretch, muscles build. And the pandemic was very difficult because you get out of the habit of working out. My CrossFit box was closed, so you try to work out at home. It's not the same workout. You're sitting around doing nothing, even though you don't want to go out and get food. But, all right, there's chips in the house instead of the carrot sticks. So where am I going? And you're not moving. So that really, really put a dent into everything. We have friends of ours, 2 cousins. They both live out here, and years ago, they both had the bypass. Not the sleeve, but the bypass.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
The bypass is the original method where they go in and move stuff around. One of them has kept the weight totally off. The other one, not so much.
No.
All the weight is back.
Yeah.
So people have to realize that when they get healthy, it's a commitment to a lifestyle. No matter what program they're going to do, it's more than just, okay, I'll lose a few pounds and then, let themselves go. No, it's a commitment more than just eating.
So even with the gastric bypass or the sleeve, it's a temporary fix, really, if you think about it, because
only if you don't treat it right.
And that's what I was going to say is, as long as you follow certain guidelines or do certain things to change or alter, because I know I wasn't hungry after I had surgery. I was no longer hungry anymore, because my stomach's smaller.
Right.
But as time passes, those chips look fantastic, and so those shakes. And
I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you I don't have a piece of cake every once in a while. Okay, but when I was heavier, I would have a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Now, my wife and I could take a little corner off of a birthday cake. A little corner, maybe this big.
Yeah.
We'll each take a fork, satisfied, and we get rid of the rest.
That's great.
Very happily.
Yeah.
And if we only just did that early on, coulda, wouldas, and shouldas, it's still a matter of how. That's why I said before, maintaining afterwards.
Yeah.
Is probably harder than getting the weight off and surviving this, going through the surgery. And everybody's experience is different through this. And that's one thing I had to stress in the book, because I'm a member of groups online on Facebook, for instance, of groups that are talking about gastric sleeve or losing weight. And, well, what can you tell me about bypass? What can you tell me about the band? That's another one, which I find absolutely ridiculous, by the way. Do you know what the band is, the gastric band?
I know what it is, but I don't know how it works.
It's basically an O-ring that is put at the top of the top of the stomach, bottom of the esophagus, and it's filled with saline. That's all that it is. Tightens it up. So if it tightens up, can you eat as much? No. But if they take some of the saline out and loosens it up, guess what? You can put more food in. And I bring this up for this reason. I was in my doctor's office for a follow-up. I think I shared this story in the book, Britt. I don't remember if I did, but I'm sitting there waiting for a follow-up, and there's a sign in the doctor's office, $150 to take saline out of your band and $150 to put saline back in your band. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, what? So a lady checked in. Honest to God, as on my mother's life, I'm telling you, this is a true story. The lady came in. Her appointment was there to have some of the saline removed from the band to loosen it, because her and her husband were going on a 10-day cruise, and it was all you can eat and drink.
Oh, no.
And then after the surgery, guess what? She was going to plunk down another $150
to put it back.
And I said, first of all, I didn't want a foreign body inside me. That's the O-ring itself.
Right.
But doing that, isn't that kind of defeating even more?
Well, that's the same thing as gaining weight and losing weight.
But that's instantaneous.
Yeah.
At least if I mess it up, I can gain weight over 6 months.
Yeah.
This was in 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And that to me was like, I know I made the right choice for me, because the sleeve surgery is a quick surgery, 45 minutes. It's laser. It's in and out. The doctor never touched me. He was sitting in the corner behind his little.
The robot.
The robot's next to me. Yeah, and I had a very good experience coming out of it. My wife, on the other hand, she did not.
Oh.
She's never good with the anesthesia, but when it comes to eating, the way the body changes, you have to have a certain amount of liquids before you leave the hospital, and protein, blah, 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 blah. Hey, give me the steak. As soon as I got in the hospital room and I was awake, I was eating that Jell-O. I was taking that water down. It was going down, no problem. My wife, she took a sip of water after the neck. She just was ready to blow up.
Yeah.
But that's why in these groups, I can't talk to anybody that had the bypass. I don't know the experience.
Yeah.
Even with the sleeve, my doctor put us on no protocols before. I could have had steak dinner, Chinese, and chicken parm the night before surgery. It didn't matter. I just had to stop eating by midnight. Mm-hmm. But other people, dear friend of mine here in town, he had the surgery, and up to 2 weeks before is when he had to shift to the shakes and start changing. Not me, man. We were dead on to the very end. We had our last suppers the night before. And I shared that in there. So my wife and I consult together with people. Mm-hmm. only in the arenas where we can justifiably talk about our experience. I won't talk to anybody who had the band. I can't talk to anybody who had the bypass because we didn't have that experience.
Mm-hmm. I didn't have a bypass. I had a fundoplication, which is very similar to a bypass.
Okay.
Mine was for a different reason, but I can imagine that's a very painful surgery, by the way. So
the one you had?
Yeah, because they detached the stomach.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
So, I would probably recommend more what you're talking about than, as opposed to anything else.
And you know what? Here's the thing. You don't know, and Britt, you could chime in on this if you'd like. You don't know who wants the help, but is afraid to reach out. But that's why I made an early decision to make my story public, because I have the public forum, I have the microphone, I have Facebook, I have all these things where I could share my story. But when I talk to people, I don't want to make it about me. So what I do is I sit down with people and I say, okay, what do you want to know?
Yes.
Ask me your questions. Because if I tell you what I went through, it's going to be completely different than yours.
So when you wrote the book, Brittany, did you suggest that he approach it that way, or did you suggest it, Aaron?
In which way?
In that, what do you want to know? How is your book written in that way? Because I've not read your book yet.
Why not? Well, don't worry about it. The copy that's here, and I have a little tradition. When I sign it, folks, I want you, the plastic ripped off. When I sign autographs, when people order a book, I take a fresh pen, like the president would when he's signing something, and I autograph my book. So that copy will be yours after the show, and I'll sign it on camera.
I'll do my best to read it.
But I think when Britt and I talked about it, I think we kind of went through that, what my mindset was, right, Britt? I think that's kind of the road we went down.
I think so. It's been like 2 years now.
I know. I haven't read my book lately anyway. I just live it all the time, But, But we did. It was a matter of the chronology of what my thought process was. I just had my follow-up appointment. One of the things that they found was an issue with my liver. I had to have a biopsy. And when I went to the doctor and got the results that weekend, my wife and I went to a local restaurant during football season. The bars in town have their teams.
Oh, yeah.
So we went to a Giants bar, New York Giants team, and we're sitting there. And this gentleman to my left, I know I put in the book, and he's sitting there. And at 10 a.m. in the morning, he's ordering a shrimp scampi at 10 a.m. Okay. Now this place serves breakfast,
right?
Okay,
yeah.
And I said to my wife, I said, babe, check that guy out over there. He's ordering shrimp scampi. I'm like, I know cold pizza in the morning can be a breakfast, but not shrimp. And so he ordered it, and we watched him. He took, I kid you not, one shrimp off the top, ate it, and then had a to-go box for the rest of it. And I looked at him and I said, babe, and I said, excuse me, sir. I said, I got to ask. He said, and I quote, if you had known me a year prior, I was 170 pounds heavier.
Wow, okay.
Because he had just had the sleeve surgery.
Yeah.
Not just, but he had it a year earlier. So we got his doctor's name, and thank goodness he was covered under my wife's plan. And so we ended up using the same doctor. And you go to these sessions where it's like a consultation, but it's a general setting, ask your questions and stuff. So my wife and I went. We signed up. Our insurance company put us through a 6-month protocol of things we had to do. Listen, the first day, one of them was meeting with a nutritionist. And I know this is in the book. We spent so much time in the Albertsons that day reading the labels of everything that we were picking up, because they teach you how to read, what to look for. And here's another hint I'm going to tell your viewers. If you are watching your sugars, if you're diabetic or not, if you find an ingredient there called sugar alcohol, because you can find stuff that says low sugar, no sugar, but you check the ingredients, see sugar alcohol, drop it and run. That's worse than regular sugar. Absolutely. You just 26 grams of sugar alcohol. Wow. Sorry, nope. Keep it on the shelf. Yeah. But we were in an Albertsons for 3 hours reading labels, trying to figure out what to do.
I do that too. I have to do that because I'm also gluten free.
Okay.
And I'm allergic to wheat, literally allergic to wheat.
Gotcha.
So I have to read every label. So I spend hours in the grocery store when I go. So
But you're looking for that. This is all new to us, and we're
okay. Yeah.
When you're heavy, you didn't care what it was. Double stuffed Oreos and water at 9 p.m. was my chaser before I went to bed. You know what I'm saying? That was because I don't smoke.
Done that, so.
I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't have any of those vices. But food was my vice. That was my stressor. And my wife and I are watching TV, and here we are at 9 o'clock at night, and the bag of double stuffed Oreos. Now they did me a favor. They now came out with triple stuff, and I can't eat those. I could, but I don't. But that's where I was. And so the order that Britt had me go through, like I said, for me, if I would have been like that cat chasing that red light, writing my book, I'd have been all over the place. Britt kept me in line the whole way, and that's why I'm so glad I did it this way.
I want to ask you, because you just brought this up about how you had to have your Oreos there at night and whatever to drink. when you think back about that, because you're already overweight, did that ever enter your mind as you're eating these? Should I be doing this?
Every time.
And you still did it.
Absolutely. Creature of habit. Still today, they tell you should stop eating or drinking 8 p.m., no later, whether you're healthy or not. But we're up watching TV and you get that urge and you're thinking about the day and this, that, and the other thing. And I'm walking in the kitchen and now smart people, right, would take maybe 1 cookie, 2 cookies. See, I had a terrible habit of emptying the Oreo bag into a Ziploc. Yeah. Because, in the wrapping, once you open it up, they don't stay fresh.
Right. I'm the same way. I do not like stale cookies.
So you can't. It's illegal in some states.
That's right.
And so I would open them up, put everything into a Ziploc. So instead of taking 1 or 2 out, what would I do? I would just take the bag of Ziplocs with me and have it next to me, water. And I'm thinking, it's like the old thing. Well, don't worry, I'm on a diet. What'd you have for dessert? 7-layer cake. But don't worry, I had Diet Coke with it. It's the same thing. I have my water with me. I'm thinking, okay, it doesn't work that way. But every time when I look at the clock and we're sitting there 9:30 and I'm eating cookies, what are you doing? It's so late. It's not, and the devil and the angel, right? The angel tells the devil to shut up. They taste good, So.
And I think I still do that.
I think we all do.
I know I need to lose a few pounds, and I'll think, but I'm like you. I'm here at the office sometimes. Yeah. I'm open up a bag of cookies. I'm thinking, well, I don't want him to get it stale. We don't have it. That's right. I mean, you have all these reasons,
you justify the bad habits.
Is that in your book?
Which part?
About justifying. Yeah.
Yes. I think we did that, right? Britt? Justification about justification about doing bad habits, right? We kind of talked about that because
I think we talked about that.
Yeah, have to. Listen, we do things for a reason. We just after a while we do things out of habit. That's why going back to the riddle, how do we eat an elephant when I sit with people? Yeah. And even though I consult with people, there's the 30-30-30 rule, which if you want I can explain, but it is in the book, so you can go to Amazon or buy the hard copy. Cheap plug. But the habits have to change. You're not going to change all your habits overnight. And I was very emphatic about that in the book. That's why I started telling the story about the elephant. And what I do is I talk to people, just pick one thing in your routine. And I'll give you a prime example. A teacher at my wife's school, one day I was there subbing, and she started talking to me about it. And she loved Tootsie Rolls. They're little bite-sized ones. Yeah. And they're on her desk in her classroom and everything. And she would eat them like M&Ms. And I told her, I said, just change one thing. I told her the whole story. Change those Tootsie Rolls out for something else that's healthier that will give you the same oral satisfaction.
Right, exactly.
The old rule is, carrot sticks or things like that.
Right.
But just find something that is healthier. So it was a month maybe before I went back to my wife's school to sub, and I saw the teacher. I said, hey, how's it going? She lost 25 pounds because she built something after that first week of changing the Tootsie Rolls out. The rule then, what I suggest is you then take a second thing in your lifestyle, do that on top of the first week. Then the third week, something new. And by the end of a month, now you've retrained your brain 2.0, rebooted it to now all these healthier habits. And in that first month, she lost about 20 pounds. 25 pounds was amazing.
Did you ever have a trainer?
In when I worked out?
Once you started losing the weight?
Always. Even before my surgery, I went to the gyms.
Okay.
And I played football in high school, but I'm not going to kid myself. I mean, I know I can lift and I know reps, but if I'm going to do that, I want to do it right. I don't want to hurt myself. I've already had a shoulder repair because of an exercise during CrossFit.
Okay.
And that's with trainers. Okay. So I realized after I had the surgery, I wanted to go continue on, but I didn't want a gym membership. Then on top of that, you're paying $40, $50, $60 a session. No, thank you. That's where CrossFit came in for me. And I went to their 1 hour CrossFit modulus, by the way.
Little plug there.
I try to plug everybody. I try to help everybody. And the first 1 hour free is just kind of like your benchmark exercises, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, and just to kind of see where you are. The one exercise that sold me on this was the last exercise was back squats. Very simple.
Okay.
So you're in a rack. This is an Olympic event. So you're in a rack, which is the metal frame where the bar can sit on, and they put weight on it, and you get under the bar so that the bar's literally laying across your traps, across your neck. Put it on your back, you step away from the bar, and you're going down into a squat, and you're coming back up, standing up and down. They only had 50 pounds on there. 50 pounds. But let me tell you, when I tell you I loved that exercise, that was the exercise that sold me on going to CrossFit.
Wow, okay.
So I told the owner, it was a couple of months out from my surgery. I still had another month or so to go, but as soon as I get the clearance, man, I am here. So January of 2018, I made all the arrangements. I went back to CrossFit. I signed up, went into the gym. And, hey, remember me? Yeah, how you doing? Now, my only concern was my right leg, as I mentioned, with the cellulitis attack, and not to gross anybody out, but the infection on the back of my leg looked like chopped meat. That's how bad the infection was.
Okay.
So I was scared with my leg. All that time, if I was crossing Sahara, which for those who don't know is a 6-lane highway,
Right.
if I was walking across the road, I would not speed up my walk or jog. I would say, you know what? I don't want to test my leg. I was afraid to see what my leg was going to do healing. And I would sooner just get hit and then I'd own the world and sue everybody and whatnot. But that very first night, and I've not had a workout since in over 4 years, was a workout. The trainer knew my story, and it was a 7 p.m. class in January. Make a long story short, it was mostly all running, jogging, and walking.
Okay.
So the last exercise was 3 laps outside around the parking lot. It was in the backside of the building, so it was traffic free. And on the very last lap, I couldn't jog even anymore. I was done, but I was walking. I was going to get the last lap in. The coach came out because I was the last one in from the group, met me halfway. He walked in with me, just pumping me up, getting me in there. And when I walked into the building, the rest of my class, they were standing there. Because they all knew my story.
Yeah.
CrossFit is a family, not just going to the gym, because you can get intimidated in the gym.
Yes.
CrossFit is a family where they understand what people have to do, and that's what I do. That's why I have a trainer. I have accountability. I'm a person that needs accountability, i.e., Britt, to help me with my ball. She's over here. I'm looking at a smaller screen. Britt, over here. She hold me accountable. We had our calls. We had our talks, and she wanted me to edit by a certain time, and I'm not silly enough to not take advantage of my wife, who's an educator. I edit it, but she edited my edits.
Yes.
Because that's my wife's a teacher.
Yeah.
So she held me accountable. And so everything I do is with accountability, including my weight, including my workout. But if I'm this past Friday or the most recent Friday, normally I work out. Well, I had to do a walkthrough at the Sahara Hotel for the wrestling event that I did.
Right.
And I got a text at like 4:05 from my coach. Are you coming?
Oh, that's
Where
cool.
are you?
Yeah.
I replied, no, I'm going through. And she's, because I had already worked out 3 times that week. Monday, Wednesday with her, and then I snuck in a boxing class on Tuesday. Don't tell her. Anyway, so she messaged me because I'm like clockwork, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 4 p.m. So they're holding me accountable. And that is an important message in the book. We should be accountable to ourselves every day when we wake up and look in the mirror, but we all know we're not perfect. And so you have to have somebody behind you.
Yeah, I think that's probably, as a writer, that's probably the hardest thing for me to do is be structured to where I know authors that will get up in the morning and they make themselves write for 2 hours.
I don't know how Britt did it. I mean, it's not like she's sitting around just writing my book.
Yeah.
How did you do that? How did you schedule all of that? For crying out loud.
I don't really have a set schedule, but I just kind of work on them when I feel the inspiration to write. And
That's how I do my commercials.
And I'm an inspirational writer.
Yeah.
But they say that you really should develop. I've never been able to do this, but they say you should have a routine, that you should always force yourself to get up and write 2 hours in the morning or in the afternoon or whenever, but you always need to set aside that time. I've never been able to do that. I'm also one of those writers who can never work on one project at a time. I have multiple.
work on one project at a time.
I have multiple projects because if I, a lot of people call it not brain freeze, but writer's block.
Mm-hmm.
I figure if I have more than one project, I'm not going to get writer's block because if I can't figure out where to go in this direction with this book, then I'll just go to the next one.
Right.
So I'm never going to have writer's block because I'm always switching.
Absolutely.
gears.
When I write commercials for clients, my sponsors, I know enough about them and everything, and I know I have to do it. But like you guys just said, even writing a simple 30-second commercial, I can't just sit that second and write it. There are times I've written scripts like the night before I go into the studio to record them because I'm thinking about it. I'm trying to think of the phraseology that I want to use. Then all of a sudden, boom, it hits you. Give me my laptop. I'm ready to go.
Good, yeah.
Then we get the scene. So I get the inspiration. It is very difficult to just sit down. I like comedy. And when I do my shows, anybody that's watching anything, I'm more of what I like to call reactionary comic.
Okay.
I'll take a situation, I'll say something silly and funny to get everybody to crack up, and I'll keep going. I'm not the kind of comic, and I use that word very loosely, where I can write a routine, do an open mic night for 30 minutes because I'd have to write all that out.
Right.
I couldn't do that. Now, if somebody else were to want to write it for me, I'll deliver it. But I can't do that because I can't write. I'm a very instinctive individual that when I see something, that I want to make my wife laugh at. Like all the time we're watching shows, I'm making silly comments going out of commercial because of something that just happened. And she just looks at me, she starts laughing, or she goes, that was really, that sort of thing. So it's the same thing. Inspiration is so important in everything we do.
So are you part of the local comedy groups? Or?
No, I wish I'm working. I'm actually looking at that. I'm being held accountable by other individuals because I do want to do more improv, more acting. More.
Do you know Greg Bruce? He does a lot.
Name rings a bell.
Yeah.
I had somebody tell me recently that I should take acting classes because I want to get into that. I think acting is a great release for a lot of reasons, similar to the cathartic method of writing, having somebody help you write a book. I want to do that. I've done some things in front of the camera in acting roles. I've done some commercials for social media. My wife and I do 2 shows on the network called GoldenNetwork.tv where I'm in front of the camera with troops and we're doing comedy things. But I want to delve more into that because I think because before being heavy, who's my inspiration? I think I told this story. John Goodman.
Okay.
Great actor.
Yeah.
Plays everything from funny to horror.
He does, yeah.
But if everybody remembers what he looked like in the original version of Roseanne.
Exactly.
He made me look small when I was heavy.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you see, and at that time, I said, well, geez, if this guy can do it, I know I can do this at his physical structure, right? He was my inspiration for that, along with Morgan Freeman, by the way. Most people don't realize he was 57 when he got his first major starring role. It was either Driving Miss Daisy or Shawshank Redemption, whichever one came first.
I think it was Driving Miss Daisy.
He was mid-50s. Yeah. I'm turning 58. That's another inspiration.
Phyllis Diller was the same way.
Was she really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. She started late.
But she had a long career. You didn't realize that. But
she lived a long time.
Well, that's true. She did. Well, we'll leave that for another topic.
Yeah.
But anyway,
absolutely.
So those are things that are inspirations. And I'll tell you what, everything we do, if we want to accomplish things, we have to have some sort of inspiration, whether it's internal or some sort of external inspiration to continue to drive us. We have to. Otherwise, why do we get out of bed every day?
Right.
Besides family or other people or like writing the book, if I could change, which I know I have because people have reached out to me, but the old saying goes, if one person reads my book and it's changed their life in any way, and they tell me, and they go out of their way to tell me this, and I'm doing one of my shows and my chat room is up, and in the middle of the show, I'll get a message from somebody, one of the fans watching the show, they bought my book. Aaron's book was tremendous. It saved my life from depression, and I'm reading this online. In the middle of a show, I got tears in my eyes because I've read somebody with my words. And I think when we write books, whether it's like what I wrote or fiction or nonfiction, whatever, we want to entertain, but there's still somewhere's a message in there. I think singers, if you listen to some singers, they sing because they like to sing. They sing the words, the music, but some people like to sing in the words in the song to deliver the message that's in the song.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people, if they reach one person with that song, they're happy.
I always write, there isn't anything I've ever written in my life that there's not a message behind it. And I actually am working with a singer right now, Christy Love Brooks. Okay. And I don't know if you've ever heard anything.
I do know.
I know she
name.
knows you.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about you last night.
No wonder I was going to say, wait a minute.
But anyway,
Hi, Christy.
all her the songs that she's written, all of them have meaning.
Oh, yeah. You have to. So. You have to. When you have the opportunity to put pen to paper, or in my case, voice to recorder with Britt, there has to be a purpose behind it. It's like any time. Listen, growing up in school, when we're taught to how to first write a paragraph, opening, middle, closing, right? Every movie, every show has all of that involved in it, right? A show like this, we have the opening, welcome everybody. The middle is all of us gabbing, and at the end, you're going to wrap up. Watch us next time.
In just a minute, actually.
Well, good, because that's good to know. So don't get me talking. I feel bad for Brittany. She hasn't said a whole lot the last 30 minutes of the show. But we all have to have purpose for that and our inspiration and meaning. And for me, like I said, I'll forever, ever be grateful for Britt's involvement with my book, because it would not have been the fact that Britt helped me put the words on paper, that I've changed people's lives and they've gotten the message in some form. That's worth it. I'm getting goosebumps sitting here right now.
And I
think
that's what's important about today's show is that ghostwriters they don't get the credit they should, in the sense that they bring to life someone's story that would never have happened otherwise. It's really important to have that. And Brittany, I want to know, where can people reach you if they're interested in either having something ghostwritten or even edited? Do you do editing?
Sure. Yes, I do editing as well. So you can reach me at www.clarence.publishing.com.
Okay.
So probably the best way to reach me is just emailing Britt, Britt, at clarencepublishing.com.
Okay. And so when you say publishing, you actually publish the books as well?
So I have someone who helps publish the books.
Okay. So you do publishing then. So that's good.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And Aaron.
Yes.
Where can we find you?
Where can't you find me?
I know.
I'm all over Facebook, but my two main websites, aaronshour.vegas is my website for my current show. My other website, which has a lot more detail of my history, you can go to aaronphillipsvoice.com. I'm all over Facebook. So that's really the best. Or if you forget how to reach me, but you get Britt first, Britt knows how to get a hold of me.
And your show is aired live on Facebook.
Everything is aired live. So if you see us and see me make faux pas and do silly stuff, it's for all the world to see. I don't edit it out.
Yeah.
So it's been great. And I love that platform as well. And fortunately, I have the opportunity. I should send Britt a copy of the commercial that was put together for the book. But again, it's just another platform for people to see people reaching things that maybe they themselves wish they could do.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And that's what I love about doing it. I want to entertain people. I don't talk politics or religion. I want to entertain, have fun, and inform people of good stuff that goes on around us.
Well, Brittany, Aaron, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
And
Thanks for having us.
oh, you're more than welcome. Thank you. And I always say at the end of my show, if you can dream it, you can write it. So thank you again for being on the show.
I did.
All right.
With Britt's help.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening to Aspects of Writing. We hope you will join us next week as we discuss every aspect of the writing industry. Until then, if you can dream it, you can write it.